The chair recognizes Mr. King of Hemphill for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to suspend all necessary rules and take up and consider HCR 4 in memory of Tamoria Jones and request approval for her burial in the Texas State Cemetery.
Members, you heard the motion. Is there objection? The chair hears none. The rules are suspended. The following resolution, the clerk read the resolution.
HCR 4 by King of Hemphill in memory of Tamoria R. Jones and authorizing her burial in the State Cemetery.
The chair recognizes Mr. King of Hemphill for a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we all, as you can tell, how T affected all of our lives. And we're going to miss our dear friend. She and I shared a special bond because, as many of you know, Chairman Dutton is my desk mate and has been for 10 years. So Tamoria and I got really close, largely over dealing with Harold, if you can imagine. I loved her, and I believe she loved me back. And Harold could not be here today because he's still with Tamoria's family. And I take it as a sincere privilege and honor that my friend and my desk mate asked me to lay this resolution out before the Texas House today. I'm sure there'll be more memorials about Tamoria, and there's other people that want to say a few things. But thank you for joining me in honoring my friend Tamoria.
The chair recognizes Mr. Manuel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. We've lost a family member who was courageous, who was loyal, who was loving. I met Tamoria when she was a tea-lipper in Rep. Harold's office. And Tamoria has always been a person who spoke her mind, and you always knew where you stood with her in a building where you don't always know where you stand with people. And she is a bright, shining light, and I am thankful that we're all honoring her memory. And I would just like everybody to know, Tamoria is not her passing. She is how she lived her life. She is how she loved us. She is how she worked. I would ask us all to remember her life and what she gave us, and not how she left us. She is still here. We have to do our part so that we can return, so we can see her. Because Tamoria was a believer, and through her love, she showed that in her own way. So I thank you all. Thank you for honoring my sister, who was my colleague for so many years. And I love you very much, Tamoria.
The chair recognizes Mr. Kane.
I know many of the staffers watching, of course, knew Tamoria. It's T. T was known to probably all of you here on this floor. Rarely do we know our fellow colleagues, staff, but as Dutton would say, she was the chief's chief. We had a lot of great policy discussions and arguments, but one thing that I do know for sure, and as a Christian, something we actually got to talk about, and it kind of reminds me that I should have this conversation with more of my staff, is that I know where she is, that I know that she was a Christian, I know she was a believer. I had no doubt about that. We are going to miss, though, and I don't think her memory is ever going to disappear from these halls, because someone who has such an impact on these halls is always forever remembered. I have a feeling there will be more things that we're going to do in these coming days to honor her memory, and hope they all continue to think about how we can do those things to honor her memory. But Burgundy and her friends Adrian, all you guys up there, the staff, I can't imagine what y'all are going through, and our hearts are with y'all. Thank you, guys.
The chair recognizes Mr. King of Hemphill to close on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. At this time, I'd ask that you join me in a moment of silence in memory of Tamoria. Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move adoption.
Members, the question occurs on the adoption of the resolution. This is a record vote required by the Constitution to allow Ms. Jones to be buried in the state cemetery. Therefore, as a record vote, the clerk will ring the bell. There'll be plenty of time to vote from your desks, members. Show Mr. King of Hempel voting aye. Show the Speaker voting aye. Show Mr. Leach voting aye. Have all members voted? There have been 145 ayes and 0 nays. The resolution is adopted. Ms. Rose moves to add all members' names to the resolution. The objecting chair has none so ordered.